Hey guys, DeetsGeek here with another build video, and today we're looking at a great low-budget gaming PC with parts you can easily find off the second-hand market. So let's get right into it. Here's a list of the parts and the price I was able to get them for. Builds like these are the bread and butter of my flipping business. Other than the GPU, the other used parts are very easy to find on eBay, and the new ones are a simple purchase from Amazon or Newegg. These parts get right into my target asking price of $300 to $600. I found this to be the most successful price range because most casual buyers out there are just looking to dip their feet into PC gaming and want the most FPS for their buck, and these builds give them exactly that. So let's talk a little bit about some of these components. First up are a motherboard and CPU combo. We have my favorite platform here, which is the Intel 2nd and 3rd Gen LGA 1155. Motherboards like this Intel H61 are all over eBay and can be had for very cheap in the $20 to $40 range. For the processor, we are using the Xeon E3-1230. At 4 cores and 8 threads, this is essentially an i7-2600 with a slightly lower clock speed and without integrated graphics. I love using these Xeons because again, you can pick them up on eBay for really cheap, and you can get pretty much the same performance of an i7 for a fraction of the price. For memory, we just have 8GB of Hynix DDR3, and I'm pretty sure these are 1600 MHz, but since we're using a Sandy Bridge processor, we're limited to 1333. Now, despite being almost 9 years old, you can still get decent performance out of these Intel generations, although in 2022, I really would stick with the i7 and Xeons, especially since the latter can be found for the same price as the i5s anyways. On to the GPU now, and we've got the ASUS Strix GTX 960 2GB. This one is kind of interesting because in the good old used market days, it was kind of pointless. Back then, it was only $10 to $20 cheaper than the superior 970, and the 1050 Ti was usually going for about the same price. In our current dumpster fire of a market though, we just have to take what we can get. Buying this for $100 is an okay price for an okay GPU. And as you'll see in the benchmarks, it does still have some life left in it, and it makes a great pair with our CPU. So now with the PC all built and loaded up, let's look at MSI Afterburner. This card runs nice and cool, and I was able to get a decent overclock out of it, plus 140 MHz on the core and 280 on the memory. So I'll put up the Heaven results side by side. Nice little bump in performance here. So let's now jump into some games and see what a $320 PC in 2022 can do at 1080p. First on the list, Halo Infinite. This is running on low settings and 90% resolution. Got an average of 35 FPS and a minimum of 30. In more demanding areas you would see it dip down past 30, but overall, while not smooth, this is 100% playable. Forza Horizon 5. This is the intro sequence, and I have this on low settings. Average of 74 FPS here, and even on low settings it looks pretty good. I also ran this through the built-in benchmark, which puts the game in a more demanding area. 45 FPS here, so depending on where you are in the open world, this will be a decent experience. Next we have Biomutant, running on medium settings, and it's averaging above 60 frames per second, so looking good here. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, looking at around 44 FPS on medium. Now we've got Age of Empires 4, and we're on a mix of medium and low settings, and not doing too bad here in this large battle scene. Averages around 60 frames per second, and I noticed it drops and stutters when you move the camera around. I've also had this issue on my personal PC as well, so some of it has to do with the game. Playable for sure. Red Dead Redemption 2, and this is where we'll start to see some struggles with only 2GB of VRAM. I had to drop this one down to 900p because it was maxed out and it wouldn't let me continue. This is definitely a compromise you'll have to make with this graphics card. The game running on the lowest balanced preset, and we're averaging 50 frames per second. You have some big stutters here and there. It's a little iffy, but I would still consider it an acceptable experience. Next up, Doom Eternal. Back to 1080p, but yet again, I had to drop to low settings due to VRAM limitations. This is running fine with 60 frames per second average. And now for the final game, the new God of War. I only played the intro sequence of the game, it had some heavy stuttering, and overall, I just don't think the 2GB 960 will do the job here. With everything set to low, I have an average of 44 FPS. I didn't get around to test with 900p on this game, so maybe that would be playable, but from what I saw looking at the other gameplay videos with this graphics card, it really struggles during demanding fights. Okay, so wrapping things up here, for $320 you've got an attractive build that can handle most modern titles at 1080p medium settings. Compromises do have to be made with a 2GB GPU, however I was really surprised with how well it held up. This is the perfect PC for someone who has a very limited budget and just wants to have a good time playing games. It's also a really quick sell for those looking to flip a profit. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, if you haven't already, check out my other build from last week. Thanks and have a great day.